Ladies and gentlemen, Phillip Ebanks.
This is the way it should be. One for Phillip and you will see. People fed up with what's happening, so they want to solve their problems. You want a change, take the stand. 30th of April, vote for this man. And everywhere that you go, Phillip's the man that everyone knows. Say this is the man with the plan. You cannot find a better man. All you people in Red Bay, vote number 1 on voting day. This is the way it should be. Vote for Phillip and you will see. This is the way, this is the way. Vote for Phillip and Red Bay.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, Red Bay, Selkirk Drive. Thank all of those who are here tonight, and thank those who are going to be viewing this video. We're going to make sure that we stream it into the homes as soon as possible to ensure that everyone gets an opportunity to hear what I'm about and what I'm about to proceed with. Yes, together we share the joys and challenges here in Red Bay. We share life, we share the issues with congestion, we share the issues with safety, we share the issues with the poor drainage in this constituency. We share all the things that individuals everywhere share, but we share it here in Red Bay. And I want you to know that I'm going forward and I'm going to work on these things. I'm going to work on these things diligently. I'm going to make sure that we sort these things out. We're not going to go on as we've been doing year after year on the same tangent. We are going to sort this out. Thank you very much. I want you to vote for me. Number 1, Phillip Ebanks on the 30th of April. Remember that. Number 1, Phillip Ebanks on the 30th of April. Red Bay deserves a unique approach to representation. We need an MP who is tuned into this constituency, an MP who is answerable to this constituency, an MP who comes around and sees what is going on, an MP with a constituency office that you can come to when you have issues. Here we are. Now we're going into the 8th year of this program under the old MP, and there's still no constituency office in Red Bay. It's a shame, 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 shame. Instead, what do we get? The old MP is simply saying, I want to hand you over to this other guy. He wants to hand us over to Mr. Tatum. He wants to hand us over to his assistant, who has been his assistant for the past 8 years. One would have thought that if Mr. Tatum was so interested, he certainly had ample opportunity. He could have taken Mr. Allen's Tahoe and driven through the constituency at least to see what's going on. That'd been nice. What he could have done is he could have jumped out by the park up there and said, peekaboo. And then people would be surprised that it's not Mr. Allen and that it's him. This is the type of thing that is happening within the constituency. We haven't had proper representation by our MP. As I've traveled through the homes here in Red Bay, and I've spoken to people and I've asked them their concern, one of the things that they've said to me is, Phillip, we are so pleased to finally see somebody who's coming and asking about our situation here, asking about our concerns, asking about how we see ourselves going forward. What do we see as the issues? Many people said that they've never seen the MP in 8 years, except on TV now and again, or passing in his car. It's a shame. Listen, I hold no ill will, and as he heads off into his retirement, I wish him well. But his apologies made out at a recent meeting right here on Victory about not attending to Red Bay issues, about being sorry that he hadn't taken better care of Red Bay, haven't gone unnoticed. The Rivers family residence right here on Prospect Drive is a testament to the fact of how this constituency has been taken care of. Anyone who wants to visit that residence, and they have told me they have no issue, you just go on Prospect Drive and 2 houses down across from Miss Cherry's shop. And there's the poor Rivers residence. Sad, sad, sad state of dilapidation, where for the last 2 years, they have been asking for some assistance. They apparently have called the MP and they got absolutely no answer. They called, and there has been some response, but still no action. 2 years. 2 years. If you see the place, you'd think that we're somewhere in Somalia. It is absolutely ridiculous, absolutely out of order, and I will fix it. I will fix these things. If you give me the opportunity, I will fix these things, Red Bay. Vote for number 1, Phillip Ebanks, on 30th of April. Thank you so much. We need an MP of action, not of apologies. We also note that in the last 8 years, some $480,000 of taxpayer money has gone specifically to providing for constituency operations. That's $60,000 a year over 8 years. It's an easy figure to calculate. It's $480,000. And yet, we do not have a constituency office in the district of Red Bay. This is a shame. If they had at least taken a little bit of that money and done something to the Rivers residents, then I could say, hey, guess what? They used something towards that. But no. No accountability. Using public funds in a way that nobody's given any accountability for. They just continue along this pathway. It's atypical. Politicians need to be aware that the eyes of the public are on them. They need to know that they're going to be held accountable. And if and when, I'm going to say when, you elect me, I intend and I want to be held accountable. And I want for us to march forward together to make Red Bay the number 1 constituency in the Cayman Islands. We can do it. We can do it. I know we can do it. And I want to be the MP for you to make that happen. No constituency office, no action on the road repairs. As you go along in this constituency, the roads are horrible. Drainage, horrible. School kids during the rainy season are wading through water at knee height depth in order to catch the bus. Nothing, not even what I would call the courtesy of saying something or acknowledging something to this constituency. Absolutely no action, no care whatsoever. The speed bumps, as simple as that is, which should be in effect, which we should be able to get to slow traffic down so that people are not racing through these neighborhoods. Even that we cannot get done properly. And what is that all about? It's all about simply the MP taking an interest in the constituency. One drive through here will show you where the speed bumps need to go. We've seen that it's even the position that some of the older speed bumps haven't been maintained. Some of those are so old that they're worn down, and now they need to be replaced. But yet, even in the other areas where we now need to get speed bumps, we don't have those there, and the old ones are being worn down. This is unacceptable. I intend to change it. If you give me the shot, I'm going to change it. No attention to traffic congestion. Every day, and I know this is a complicated subject, there's a lot of cars on the road. We only have a certain amount of roadway, but at least there ought to be some interest, particularly on behalf of Red Bay residents by the MP to get out there and put his shoulder to the wheel, so to speak, to say, listen, I'm going to try and get something. No, they simply wash their hands of it and say, well, you know, maybe NRA, maybe not. And I understand that NRA is a professional organization, that they are doing things, that there's a bigger plan, but it's more than that. It's about being interested. It's about proceeding to move these things along so that we're not suffering year after year after year with the same old issues of congestion. We must do better. I will do better. You vote for number 1, Phillip Ebanks, on the 30th of April. I will show you what action means. Even the somewhat minor changes to traffic that we could do to improve the risk, improve the safety. Every day as we come on to Shamrock from these side roads, whether it's Selkirk or Victory or Marina Drive, we encounter the same set of circumstances. It's like Russian roulette. People are trying to come off of Marina Drive onto Shamrock. You know, there's 2 cars on either side of you. There's cars coming from all directions. And it's a huge risk factor that we encounter on a daily basis. Now, there's something called fair opportunity traffic lights. It's not that complicated. And what fair opportunity traffic lights would do is simply this. It'll de-stress the situation. It'll give you a fair opportunity to enter traffic. That is something that we need to look at and we need to get implemented because safety is paramount. Yes, there's developments that are going to be going on with the road structures. There's a new junction that's being planned next to the King's Gym, and that's going to tie in to this road as well as Hurley's roundabout. And it's, at the end of the day, that's going to cause some relief. That is going to cause some relief. But what do we do between now and then? We make the roads safer. We have to try to ensure that the roads are safer. We need to do this. If you elect me, when you elect me on the 30th of April, I am going to make a difference. I'm going to sort these things out. I'm not going to take another 8 years to muck around to see what is happening about these things. I have experience in traffic. Most of you know that. I spent 20 years in the police department. I understand safety. I understand traffic. I will work these things out. I will get these things moving for us in Red Bay. Core to that is that I'm going to put that constituency office in this constituency within the first 100 days. You have my undertaking on that. I'm not just going to take public funds and not produce what public funds are intended for. The issue of the constituency office is very, very important to the constituency. It marks a place that everyone can come to and they know that they can meet with their MP. They know that their concerns can be dealt with by the MP. They know that they can be connected to the government services that are available. It also marks a place where the MP can have registers, where he will know where people who are at risk in certain areas. He will know who is in need in certain areas. He will know in a time of emergency during the hurricanes and that type of thing, where the people are that are going to need help. This is not just a nicety. It's not just about a room. It's about connection between the MP and the constituency. It's very important. I don't understand why they haven't seen that it's important. I think it's just a failure and an abandonment of Red Bay. I think it is wrong. It is clearly wrong. People are seeing it. I am seeing it. You're seeing it. And if you vote for me on the 30th of April, I will change that for you here in this constituency. I understand that my colleague, Mr. Tatum, has promised as well that he will now put a constituency office in this constituency. Interesting. Thank God, since I put it in my brochure, he's now seen it as well. So we're doing some good work. We're making these people see what's important. It's too bad it's taken 8 years to see the importance of it, but better late than never. Better late than never. However, he does have a little bit of a condition in whether he actually puts in a constituency office or not. He says, well, my plans is that if me and the lady that is running for prospect, if we get elected, we will have a constituency office together. So already there you see there's a condition there. It means the two of them have to get elected for him to have an office. I have no conditions. My promise, I want to go for work for Red Bay. And having that constituency office is central to my plans to go to work for Red Bay. You vote for me, number 1, Phillip Ebanks, on the 30th of April, and I will deliver. Talking about that promise that if Mr. Roy and his colleague in the Prospect constituency for the Progressives are both successful. I mean, I don't know about that. If anybody watched the debates there, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's 2 very strong candidates, not including the Progressive candidate in the Prospect constituency. I watched that debate and I saw 2 professionals go head to head, 2 well-informed, understanding people who knew their subject. My friends, I wouldn't bet on Mr. Roy being able to meet that criteria of both him and his colleague being elected. At the heart of it, Mr. Roy is a numbers guy. He has to bury himself in the flag of the Progressives. I can bet you almost, if I had $1 million, I'd bet you, but I don't have $1 million, so I won't bet you. But if I had it, I'd bet you. I would bet you that outside of this flag, of this progressive flag, you wouldn't see him out here. He's not that kind of guy. He's not a leader. He's a follower. He's somebody who's followed for years and years. He's followed behind Sir Alden. Sir Alden, say what you want to say, but he certainly knows his stuff when he gets up there on the stage. He knows his stuff. He understands a lot of issues, and I give him that. But Roy's not that guy. Roy's not that guy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say to you, as I've looked around and I've talked to people, and I've talked to a lot of people who are in parties, and I've talked to a lot of people who are independents, but I want to say something tonight. And I say this from experience again. It takes real nerve, confidence, and strength to run as an independent in the environment that we're in right now. And if you elect me, when you elect me on the 30th of April, that's what you're going to have. Somebody with confidence, somebody with drive, somebody who's going to stand up and work for the things that make Red Bay better. That's who you're going to vote. You're going to elect. Many will say, well, you better just vote for these parties because they got a better program. Yeah? Well, look at what has happened over the last 4 years, right? Some people were independents, then they became parties, then they became independents again, then they became parties again. They flip and they flop. There's no cohesion in Cayman in party politics. It doesn't have that culture. We don't have a long-standing culture. Even when you listen to Mr. McTaggart, Roy M now as Roy T, would you normally call him, because that's what he says that he calls him. They call Roy M and Roy T. I mean, I don't know, I don't get it in that, but I guess good old boys, I get that. But here we are, there's no cohesion whatsoever. There's into this process when they're standing before the radio and on OC show, and they're saying, oh, we're a party, okay? And they say things like, Well, we're getting our manifesto ready. You're getting your manifesto ready as a party, and you've already have people who are part of your brand. What are they standing for? How can you stand for anything unless you know what it is? So now they're going to form this manifesto around these people? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's not how you do things. How you do things is you have a manifesto, party level manifesto. The party leaders prepare the manifesto, and then those who are joining come in and they are part, they accept that that's a part of what they're dealing with. Without that, you have nothing. You have absolutely nothing. And you're going to have the same kind of flip-flops. Watch. The same type of flip-flops that you had last time, where people go in purely because it's a mattress of convenience. A mattress of convenience. They lie in it and they roll out of it. Depends on how it feels, maybe a little rocky, they roll out. No cohesion, no real party lines, no real party mottos, no real party manifesto to tie them together. We saw it last time, jumping from ship to ship. Even the progressives themselves, main figures in the progressives, jump off in the form of sub-party. And then what's interesting is that even though Mr. Roy McTaggart was heavily critical of the expenditure of that $150 million that was budgeted for or expended just shortly before we had nominations. You remember that? He was so critical. He said, this is absolutely ridiculous. We should not be doing this. We're doing a disservice to the country. He said that that government that was doing that was doing a disservice to the country. Yet 2 or 3 days prior to nomination, they pull all of those same people, 3 or 4 of them, into their midst, and now they're party. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Let me tell you, if you look at any developed country with developed parties, the one thing that you don't see is people do not move in and out of the party. It's a big thing. They move out, God bless them, they're not going to be coming back. I mean, rare indeed, because it means that you've broken with that object, that issue of how that party runs. You've broken with that party's culture, and you don't get to come back in. It doesn't happen. It does not happen. But, okay, man, it's a mattress of convenience. Just watch and you see it. They've done it over 4 years, and now they've come and sort of reconstituted and say, wow, let's do it to them again. Let's do it to them again. I know we can do it. We can flash the colors and put up the shining lights, and we will fool the public. But I don't think so. I think Red Bay is seeing the light. As I walk around this constituency and I talk to people, they understand. They understand what's happening. They see what's happening. And they see the value of someone who has an independent view. Somebody has an independent voice. A voice which is not going to go according to what the party says and the party's changes. It's going to go according to what's in the best interest of Red Bay. On the 30th of April, you vote me in, you will have me as your MP, and I will stand strong for Red Bay and for the Cayman Islands. I know there's a lot banking and there's a lot of parties, and parties are, I'm not against parties. Understand that now tonight. What I'm against is this idea that the only option is a party. It's a different argument. Parties are supposed to work as this cohesive unit so that you can get things done. That means that you're expecting that they will stay together. Has that been happening? No. So there's a difficulty right there. But when you look at the independent, and I know the independents have gotten a bad brush in this last one, and really, with reason, because they've been petulant, they have been uncommitted to the main objectives, which is to do something for the Cayman Islands people. They've been unable to collaborate with the other operators in the parliament. This is unacceptable. The reality, though, I'm going to say this to you. The reality about it is that you have to look at the people. You really have got to look at the people, because it's not the title that makes the difference. It's the people. They have to stop being petulant. They have to learn to collaborate. And listen, you elect me on the 30th of April, you'll have a master collaborator. I will work towards ensuring that we have the best government possible. The best government possible. I will do that for Red Bay. I will do it for the Cayman Islands. I will make sure that every one of us is well represented in the parliament. I will make sure not only to work in relation to forming the next government, but I will also be there to do one very, very important thing. One very important thing that you're not going to get out of any party. You have to get it out of an independent. And that is to keep my thumb to the back of that government, to make sure that promises made are promises kept. Promises made are promises kept. We have got to make sure that we don't only put people in a position to do a job, but that we stand and make sure that they do that job. The issues in this country are serious, and we need to make sure that they get done. And as your MP for Red Bay, I will be the person to ensure that it gets done. So, talking about parties and talking about who might win the government, I don't see any of these parties getting 10 clear candidates. It's just not going to happen. I mean, look at the people that they're producing. You see 10 clear candidates in any of those parties? And then what about the existing MPs that are out there that we can almost say, I know that they're going to get reelected. And you know why they're going to get elected? Because they've done one important thing. They've taken care of their constituency. It's not magic. It's not magic. But it is correct in the way that constituencies approach elections and their representation as an MP. You want your MP to be responsive to the needs of that constituency. You want your MP to ensure that the things in that constituency are done when you say you're going to be done. You don't march around for 4 years and then come knocking a couple of days before election and say, hey, listen, I'm back. No. I think people are really seeing the light on that. And as I walked around in canvas in these various constituencies, it's coming out loud and clear. You know, it's so sad because sometimes you walk into a house or a yard and you meet some very kind people that you've known for a long time. And you know, sometimes they welcome you and they say, yep. I had one instance where a guy came out and when he met me, he said, don't worry about it, Mr. Phil. I am going to vote for you. And I said, well, hold on a second. Can I tell you a little bit about what I'm about? He said, no. You don't, because I know you. And that touched me. That touched me. That was so important to me. I went home and I told my wife, and by the way, she's sitting in the car there somewhere because she's feeling a little bit ill, but she's here watching and being attentive and trying to do what she can to support me. Hilda, thank you very much. Thank you very much. But at other times as I've gone through constituencies, houses in the constituency, you meet people and they walk out and they say flat up, don't bother waste your time, don't bother talk to me. And I say, well, you know, you want this brochure? No. Sir, you seem like a very nice man, but I've spent the last 20 years here. Politicians, they walk through, they come through, they don't follow through, you never see them again. I'm not voting anymore. It's sad. It's a loss of confidence. A loss of confidence in the very system, the primary system by which our rights are derived. Do not take your eyes and minds off of an understanding of what elections mean. This is big stuff. This is the most important thing that you can do in your country, is to vote for your political future, to ensure that the people that you vote for are responsive, respectable, they have integrity, but when they treat you so badly, in some cases, as in the case I just spoke to, some people really become disenchanted. I could only say one thing to her. I said one thing to her. I said, hey, I understand. If you wish to talk to me, there's a number. If you don't wish to talk to me, and I'm elected, I'm going to represent you, because next time around, you're going to vote for Phillip Ebanks, number 1 for Red Bay. The progressives have lost their way. And it's one of those things where some people can't really put their finger on. I'm going to put my finger on a couple of things tonight about why they're not the party of choice. But overall, they become deeply, deeply unpopular on the national stage. Yes, they can put up, a fanfare and a show, and if they could get Beyonce down here, man, would they have a show. But she's not coming. I might get her, though. You never know. But they're not coming. She's not coming for them. And they know that the only way that they can get people out is to have a massive fanfare. Lots of lights, a lot of flashing lights. Tonight, I stand with you in Miss Marva Thompson's yard at 151 Selkirk. Out there's a lot of people who I've spoken to, and they've said, Phillip, don't worry. We are watching the stream. We're going to watch the stream because one reason or another, they can't be here. A lot of people nowadays are concerned about safety. They're concerned on a number of levels, and they prefer to stay in their yards and watch these types of proceedings by way of TV. And God bless TV, because I love it too. So, we look at the part of politics, and there's one creature in the room which has been hanging about for the last 20 years or so. And I hate to harp on them, but the reality is that the other two parties really don't have the same baggage, because, in a sense, they're newcomers. They're new to the scene, even if they flip-flopped in one case a little bit. And the other one is absolutely new. So in both of those cases, we kind of don't know what to expect, right? We're hopeful that somehow in this mix of things, you'll get some people from parties and some people, good, strong independents, who will move together to form a government. Or even if I'm as an independent don't form a government, I intend to be there as a strong backbencher with my thumb at the back of that government to make sure that they do what they have promised to do. And that's as important as anything else that we can do in this country. It's as important for Red Bay, it's as important for Cayman Islands, that you do have someone with structure, somebody with backbone, somebody to stand up, somebody to say what it is that needs to be said, and to do what it is, what we need to be done. I was watching video the other night, and there was a gentleman on there, and he was saying, let's get back on the train. He was talking about the progressive train. It's so interesting, and said, there was a recording about they'd had 2 successive governments. And, hey, guess what? I understand that the important thing about politics is that you highlight your highs and cover up your lows, right? And of course, that's what it's doing. They talk about 2 successive governments and about leaving money in the coffers on both of those governments. But I have a good memory. The 2017 public management and finance law. Remember that? Amidst all of the overspending, there was a pressure on the Cayman Islands government to bring its finances in line. Thank God for the UK. Thank God for the UK, because what it did is it brought them in line, at least temporarily. And because of that, we're not as bad off today as we probably would have been had the UK not stepped in to ensure that there was some semblance of order, to ensure that we weren't borrowing more than 10% of the amount that we have budgeted for the year, and other structures in there to ensure that we kept in line. And so now they can say, yes, we're following that rule. But that's an interesting rule, because when you talk about public debt, it's about $750 million public debt. And so certainly when you look at that in ratio towards the revenue, they're under the 10%. They're under the 10% ratio, about 9%. But what they're getting away from and what they're failing to really deal with is what we call the pension and health care liabilities. $2.4 billion. $2.4 billion. That's $240 million. That's what we're talking about. You're talking about serious expenditure. And that is not being accounted for in the structure of looking at the under 10% ratio in comparison to revenue. You see, what we have to be cautious of in this country is politicians. We have to be extremely cautious of politicians. You know, until about 4 or 5 months ago, yeah, of course, at some point or the other, I may have thought about running for politics. I think probably most people do at some point, because when they look up and they see people who are leading them, they say, and they've been saying it more and more recently, is I know I could do better than that. So there's always that thought, right? But up until about 4 months ago, I wouldn't have really considered it. But with the urging of friends and people who believe that I have the capacity and capability and the good stuff that we need to help run this country, I am here today. I am here today. The question is, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? When? So often we turn around and we say, you know, where are the good people? There's got to be good people that are able to do something for our country. We don't have pure nincompoops, except in politics. That's what it seems. This time, I got a feeling that this time is going to be very different. I just feel it. When you see some of the very brightest people out there, you know, I'm not going to call names because I don't want to get involved in anybody's race. But we have some fresh, great blood. And I look forward and I hope within my heart of hearts that we could have some of those bright people come true to make sure that we do something for this country, because it's now or never. We've got to sort this country out. And on 30th of April, you vote number 1 for Phillip Ebanks, and I will be there along with those other bright lights to make sure that we take this country forward. So how bad is our finances in the country? Okay. We're measuring and we're saying a $750 million debt, a billion and something projected revenue. And then we also have this animal in the room, I call it, of a $2.4 billion outstanding liability. Well, the honest truth is simply this. The economists agree on one thing, that if you counted it together, we'd have some real financial problems. But the fact of the matter is that we really don't know, because as far as I can see, I haven't been able to find any kind of financial modeling to tell us exactly how bad off we are. So how are we going to sort it? We're going to have to model it. We're going to have to figure it out and see where we are. And in the next government, I promise you, I'm going to work on that, because it's important to us. It's important to our children. It's important to our future. We got to take care of that. That's an important factor. Education. Yes, education. It needs a comprehensive overhaul for sure. As you look around and you see some statistics, 70% of the children leaving primary school and going into high school are not reading to standard. At a time when we're looking at changing technology, artificial intelligence is on us. Shifting geopolitics. What are we going to do? We've got to take this on. It's serious. We're going to have to figure this thing out. And I'm going to join. There's other good people who know a lot more about education than I am, and that's what we need. There's nobody who knows it all. But I'm going to join in with those people who are most prominent and most capable of dealing with education. We're going to study this thing. We can find a way forward. And we are going to overhaul this education system, because we must. We must. We must. I mean, on the surface, it seems that there's so many what I call low-hanging fruit that we ought to be taking care of in the education system. We've been talking for years about vocational training. Okay, we're doing little bits here and there. We're importing so much labor for vocational training, the good paying jobs like plumbing and appliance repairs and electrical and all those things. Yet, we're not building our Caymanians up to take on some of those roles. No, we're just using the work permit process. And of course, here's the kicker. You bring a man into your country for 8 years and he performs a function. This becomes, in a sense, where he sees as his home. Maybe he has children here. Do you think that he wants to leave? No, he doesn't want to leave. Let me tell you something. I've traveled all over the world. I went to Southeast Asia. Hello, where are you? Last June, Southeast Asia. What a beautiful time. So many nice people, cheap prices, safety, good quality of services as well. And the upshoot of that is I love to travel, but I'm going to tell you this tonight. I'm going to tell you this. There is no place like the Cayman Islands. No place like the Cayman Islands. And when you see people come here, I can't blame them. I can't blame them for not wanting to leave. They want to stay. It's the best place in the world. And I want to make sure that we keep it that way, but I want to make sure that I keep it that way and we concentrate as a priority on our Caymanian people. Because if we don't do that, this place isn't going to work. It has to work for Caymanian people. I'm going to make sure that we work hard towards ensuring that the people of the Cayman Islands, our Caymanian people, are properly represented. They get the opportunities as they arise. They're not going to be second best in this country, and I'll talk to you more about what my plans are on that. But Believe you me, we're going to make sure that we look after the Caymanian people. The other line for success, aside from education, is opportunities. I firmly believe that education and opportunities make success. So we got to fix the education, but we also got to look and make sure the opportunities are there. Our immigration law and system has a significant impact on all of that. It's not really working the way it's supposed to work. We agree to that. And how it is operated, again, largely dictates on whether people get the opportunities in the workplace that they deserve. And what I mean by that, the best possible job within your line of qualification that is available out there that would otherwise go to somebody on a work permit, the Caymanian should have an opportunity to get that job. And I firmly believe that that is what the country is crying for right now, and I will work to ensure that that gets done. I think that we need to look at the system of immigration quite carefully. And it seems that although we have a number of systems that sort of work together, business staffing plans, work permit board, the unemployment system of who's out of employment, the advertisement for to renew work permits. All of these little systems are out there, but they don't seem to work together in the interest of ensuring that Caymanians get the opportunities. So we need to work on those systems and make sure those systems work. That's the first thing we need to do. So what I'm proposing is that obviously we need to look in more detail at how we progress. And I think the starting point has got to be that we've got to look at to see where the island is headed in terms of numbers, try and figure out where that number of the population should be and ought to be, and try to gear things towards that end. What we've been doing is we've just been kind of running down the road, as far as I can see, without any real plan. And as a result of that, we're here today. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is that we don't have the right kind of statistics that really show the central point, which is this, which is how many opportunities are being missed by Caymanians, either in terms of getting a job or in improving on the job that they now have. You see, it's really two things, isn't it? A young person comes into the workforce for the first time, he needs to get a job. And I know that we have issues there on a number of levels, some with expectations of young people who are employed, and then other times there's issues with employees and employers that doesn't get resolved. So we need to look at that. But also what I'm thinking is this. The other end of it is to ensure that Caymanians who are in the workplace, currently in the workplace, get good opportunities to move to other jobs which become available. I think that's important because that's part of the progress aspect that gets missed. We seem to be concentrating only on how to get perhaps people to come into the workforce, rather than how do we get people in the workforce to also progress. And I think we need to look at those things and make sure that we're clear on what the objectives are there, and so that we can pursue those objectives clearly. One early step that I can think of that I think that will make a big difference, and I'm willing to push for this, is that instead of having applications for work permits for the renewal of a work permit come up at the end of the cycle of the work permit. You know, you currently have the 2-weekly publication in the newspaper before you renew the work permit. I'm suggesting that we should have that process 6 months in advance. In other words, if a work permit is coming up for renewal, then 6 months in advance of that, the advertisement has to go out, and it's going to say simply this: in 6 months down the road, this position is going to become available. And what does that do? It means that if you're in an existing job and you look at that job and you say, hey, this looks like it might be a good job for me, I'd like a shot at this, you have some time. You know, when you look at existing contracts, and I do a lot of employment contracts, and the one thing that remains a central figure of it is that employers and employees kind of want stability. And so within contracts, they'll have that you have to give 3 months notice or sometimes 4 months notice before you can move. But what if instead of the approach that we have now, which is you see an advert in the newspaper and in 2 weeks you got to make a decision about it? What if you had the opportunity 6 months in advance of that to say, hey, how about I want a shot at this, right? Give you a chance to upgrade your resume. Maybe you need another short course. But then it also allows that, it also, in my view, better suits the employer's point of view. And why is that? Employers thrive on stability. They want to know that things are set. They're there to do business. They're there to make their money. And they need their people in place in order to make their money. So if this thing is happening 6 months in advance, the advertisement, you can then decide whether there's in fact a Caymanian available well in advance of the expiry date of the current work permit. And then also, he will know, hey, listen, we're out there now looking for potentially a Caymanian, and he can spend some time trying to find that he finds the best match for his business, the best Caymanian match for his business. You see, there's a conflict here, right? On the one hand, employer wants the best person, nutshell. And on the other hand, opportunities demand that Caymanians get a shot, get an opportunity. So how do you merge that? I think the way to merge that is by ensuring 6 months in advance of the expiry of the work permit, they put in their advertisement. It starts the ball rolling so that people can look at this thing and they can decide whether they want to apply for it. If they don't apply, that means there's no interest, right? So it gets done. Now, the way that they do it is, in my mind's eye, is really not really administratively correct. It seems that when you put in a work permit for renewal, you might not even hear about that work permit being renewed for 6 to 8 months after the expiry, okay? So, and that's because of this logistic problem that we have, the shortage of time for the work permit to be processed, all the systems to be checked, and all that stuff. So I think that a good way of ensuring transparency and ensuring that opportunity exists and exists in a proper and reasonable sense is by bringing that period forward by 6 months. And that will give Caymanians a better opportunity to apply for jobs. The second aspect of the immigration system that we obviously urgently need to fix is that the systems within immigration, and this is systematic, this is a financial outlay fix, is that talking to my colleagues in work and other places, one of the things that has become very clear to me is that you have a lot of different systems. You have the business planning system, you have the work permit system, you have the labor system, you have the advertisement system, and these systems do not talk to each other. So as a result, guess what happens? A lot of work permits are issued without checking all the systems. And so all of these plans and all these fine plans to have all this stuff in place to protect Caymanians is not going to work because the system doesn't work, because they don't talk to each other. And we know what happens. People get frustrated. They say, you got an employer who's barking down and saying, where's my permit, where's my permit, where's my permit? And then they're trying to do their best in there, but the system don't talk to each other. It's no magic as to what happens. They just get on with it. They issue these permits sometimes, and they're not been fully and properly vetted and considered because the systems don't work. So we've got to invest into making sure that the computer systems are up to par with what the realities are nowadays. That they have the artificial intelligence systems in there that they can talk to each other. We can make sure that, in fact, the systems work to ensure that the opportunities for Caymanians in the workplace is protected. It's protected. They have the opportunity. We've got to make sure that it works. Thank you. I want to turn to one of my favorite subjects, because when I asked one of my constituents what they thought was the most important thing in Red Bay, they said the three most important things are traffic, traffic, traffic. And I think a lot of people, that resonates with a lot of people. A lot of people are really, really concerned about the traffic condition in this constituency. And I will be the first one to tell you, right now, there are really no easy, comprehensive fixes right as we hear now. But there are ways of moving forward to that kind of objective. And I want to tell you what I think those objectives should be. And I want to pursue those objectives for you. I spoke briefly at the start about fair opportunity traffic lights. At each junction coming out onto Shamrock, we have fair opportunity traffic lights. It will improve safety. I explained that was a safety improvement rather than necessarily improving the speed in which you get out. But safety is an important thing. I want to put it to you that, if you think about when you come up to a traffic light, sometimes you sit there and you kind of wait. But you know what? You play the music a little bit, you roll your head from side to side, you look around, and you de-stress, because you know that at some point you're going to get your opportunity to go. All right? If you come out onto Shamrock from these side roads in the morning, this is how you're going. Your head's going all over the direction. You're watching for the guy who's behind you. On the left, the right, two cars are coming in two different directions, sometimes in three directions. And occasionally, in and amongst that is a minibus. So it's crazy. So we need to improve safety. I think that fair opportunity traffic lights will take us forward so that we have a better handle on safety. I want to get to work on implementing the public transport plan. There's one that's been sitting on the shelves there now for about a year. I've had a look at it. I think it has some positive things that will help us. Now, I know a lot of people say, public transport, I'm not going to give up my car. And yeah, hey, I guess I understand that, I get it, people want the car, and I get that. But part of the problem is this, or part of the issue is this. Most people have never experienced a properly working, clean, on time public transport system. In many places that you go, public transport is the way to go. People don't mess with cars. So I know that from the perspective of public transport, I know there is going to be a time when we have to seek to move that along in the right direction. So what is the position? Well, first of all, the chicken and egg, we have to have a public transport system in place so that we can then move it along, we can promote it, people can see the wisdom of using it. We can also, at that point in time, also be much more restrictive on the numbers of cars coming in. We can then, at that point in time, also be more limiting in how many people that come on this island that are coming in, particularly fresh people that are coming in on work permits and so on and so forth, so that you ease the requirement on the road with cars and you improve the public transport system. The other thing is, I can tell you, one of the major things that you see in other countries with public transport is that very often the public transport vehicle has its designated lane. So imagine you're there sitting in your 2 lanes and you're backed up in traffic, and every morning you see the public transport board, the public transport bus going down the road, and the people are not getting there 10, 15 minutes before you get there. I think it's going to make you think. It's going to really make you think. And even if you don't give up your car and you're not willing to do that, well, maybe, some yards have 4 cars in it. 4 cars, right? And every morning, those 4 cars are on the road with 4 people that are driving them. So maybe at some point, you might say, well, you know what? Maybe 2 days a week or something, I'll use the bus. Maybe we'll be more thoughtful about it and realize that there is a benefit in reducing the traffic loads so that we can all enjoy a better standard of life on the roads. And there's a chicken and egg, the carrot approach as well. Obviously, one of the things that you will have to do as you proceed along this pathway is you'll have to make public transport accessible, affordable. And how do you do that? You have to use the vehicle license and taxation system to ensure that you develop these systems as they evolve so that people can have the public transport system and they will stop thinking so much about having so many cars. The bigger part of the plan, however, is that we also have to look at housing. There's the east to west road that is being planned. Now that east-west road, which is the road that will be leading in here from East End, North Side, from the Savannah on into here, is an important road in a couple of respects. First of all, it is going to allow some easement with traffic because another road helps traffic. But beyond that, I see great value in the fact that as that road goes through, it is going to create additional land availability so that there will be more space for development, for housing for Caymanians, and within having housing for Caymanians over on that end, my view is that we should develop businesses, perhaps the courthouse, government offices, banks, everything that you in fact need to go into central Georgetown for should be in that direction. And why is that important? Because right now, the bottleneck effect that we have is that everyone from East End, North Side, Bordentown come through every day, okay? And it bottlenecks right here. So the way to relieve that bottleneck is to have services on that direction so that people will have an option to use the services in that direction. if you want a new high school, that's where we need to put a new high school over there so that we can have that option. Mind you, that's not only about Town, Northside, and East End benefiting from that, because we here in Red Bay too will benefit from that. Because if the service is in that direction, why would we want to turn left instead of right to go and get those services? So this is good. This is good for Red Bay. It's good for housing. It's good for traffic congestion. And you vote me in on the 30th of April, and I will put my shoulder to the wheel to get some of these systems in place to ensure that we improve public housing, congestion, and get that road sorted out. You will have seen in my brochure something that I find near and dear to my heart, which is how we deal with our elderly. And I guess some of that is because of the gray hair in my own head, I suppose. I'm hoping at some point people will say, that poor old man, let's take care of him too. You know? But the point about it is that we see that one of the really strangling things about aging, when you've gone through life, you've put it all out there, you've done everything you can, you worked your life, you know, is that health insurance strangles people. $750, $1,200, $1,500, I heard in one instance. This is crazy. At a time when the person is really in the kind of more retirement mode of their life. We've got to sort that out. We've got to sort that out, and I will sort that out. I will look to see how we can sort that out and ensure that persons over 65 get the health care that they need at the most important time of their life so that they can live their best lives. I also think that we need to keep the children, people under 18, not who are in school. We need to take care of them too and make sure that they have health care, because therein lies the marking of our future. So I think that's an important thing, and I'll also look towards school-age children who are in school under 18, ensuring that we have education, you have insurance to take care of them. The other issue that I've noticed, and I suppose part of it relates to what I've just said about persons over 65 having health insurance, because that's a major thing for employers. If you come along and you're 65 and you got $1,200 worth of health insurance, and you're gonna effectively cause a significant uplift to their plan, their health insurance plan, that's another reason for them to say, hey, I don't know if we can take this one on, right? But if the person comes along and their health insurance is covered anyway, then it also means that that person will have a greater opportunity to continue working. And here we are. You're talking about the average sum that you get from your pension, right? And I'm talking really probably more to public servants, because they kind of get, the private one is is pretty sad, but the public one allows maybe $1,200, $1,500 a month. In some cases, I think the minimum now is $1,500. So $1,500, maybe $2,000 a month. But let's put that in perspective. So you're a pensioner, so to speak, and you're over 65. But if you can get continued employment, even on a part-time basis, even a few days a week, as your health allows, as you wish to do when you're having your best years, and you work, all of a sudden your financial outlook looks a lot different. And therein lies the way that we hopefully help people to live their best lives as they mature, is to allow them to continue to be able to work as long as they wish. So we gotta gear the systems to ensure that people who are healthy, who want to continue to work, will be allowed and facilitated in continuing to work. Because the offshoot of that is that we import more work permits, and that's not good, right? If the person has proven themselves, they have a qualification or a propensity to do a particular job, and they want to continue past 65, God bless them. I will be there to ensure that they get to do it. They get to continue to work as long as they're fit to do so. I spoke earlier about the issue of housing and about how to fix housing. One of the main problems is that the numbers of houses on the market is way down. We need to ramp up the number of housing. I mean, this is economics, basic economics. If you have a low supply of something, the price goes up. And that's kind of what has happened with housing. Houses that were on the market a couple of years ago for $250,000 now are $450,000, $500,000. When you couple that with mortgages and mortgage rates and mortgage interest, it's completely unachievable for a lot of Caymanians, even ones who appear on the face of it to make decent salaries, $5,000, $6,000 a month. Sounds like, hey, sounds decent to me, but they can't afford a house. So what we got to do is we got to get the numbers of houses up so that we can stabilize the prices, okay? When we look at building that east to west road, we've got to make sure that as a part of that, there is an encouragement, and I think the developers are ready. They're ready to do it. They have one problem. Planning regulations need to be streamlined so that they're not around their necks. They're not taking 2 and 3 years to get through planning in order to build something. That's what's strangling the development of additional houses in this country right now, and we got to sort that out. We got to sort that out. We got to sort the red tape. I also see a role for government in ensuring that we have public-private partnerships. Why shouldn't we partner on something as essential as housing for Caymanians with the private sector? A house is the core around the Caymanian dream, as I call it. It is the core around family life. If you don't have a decent accommodation in which to raise your children, we're lost. We already see society just deteriorating around us, and a large part of it is that when you look and you dig down into it and you see where people are living, you see it. You see it right there. You see why it can't get any better. And we have got to fix that. And I'm saying that as a part of the next government or against the backbone of the next government, I will press to ensure that public-private partnerships go into effect to ensure that we develop homes at an appropriate level, in an appropriate size, and with appropriate mortgage rates and mortgage ranges so that the houses can be affordable, so that Caymanians can have a decent house to raise their family. Houses don't have to be all one size or all one shape or all anything. They can be apartments. They can be small houses. I think that we need to approach this whole concept about housing a little bit differently than we've approached from the past. Cayman has a very limited amount of land space, which means a couple of things. First of all, it makes sense that we go up when we build in, meaning some apartments. We need to get apartments in there as well as single-family dwelling houses. But I also want to look at it from the perspective, as I've seen in other areas, where you can also put small, small mini homes in a higher density configuration in certain areas. So that, for example, you might have 4 small homes or 4 small cottages on, say, a quarter acre of land, where you could have these sort of 4 or 5 individual homes on that. That way, the land cost per home, per small home, comes down. We need to look at different options. No one size fits all. We need to think outside the box. We need to recognize, and I've seen some little developments with small homes, very attractive, little walking paths and lights and, nice. And for a lot of people, here's the deal. They want a safe, comfortable house that are home or accommodation so that they can do the things in life that they need. They need to sleep, they need to eat, they need to be, with their family. They need comfort and security of that small house. Hey, guess what? I'm all for Caymanians doing the big houses as well. In fact, if they start off in the starter home and they do well, God bless them. God bless them. Because that's what I want for Cayman. I want them to have the very best. But I also want them to have a start. The option for a start. I spoke at my first meeting about the possibility of long-term mortgages, meaning mortgages that are 40 years instead of the usual 25 to 30-year mortgage. Mortgages in the 40-year range are possible. Some of the banks currently offer them, not all of them. It seems that they're not mainstream, but they do happen from time to time. The point with having a mortgage for 40 years is that the monthly fee, the monthly payment for that mortgage comes down. And that's really, really important when you start talking about the cost of living. If you can reduce what is in fact the most expensive part of your budget, which is your monthly mortgage, then you have some money that you can use on other things. To me, that is the number one way that I believe that we could press to ensure that the cost of living is contained. It's meaningful. You can target it. We could make sure that that happen. And I think that between the private sector, which is normal banking system, I'm sure that once government makes a start and provides, because government needs to lead. Government needs to lead. It just can't let the private sector just do what it is. It's got to do what's in the best interest of the people. We got to make sure that things like this are pressed forward. I can't think of anything that I believe that government should borrow on than housing, that needs to borrow more on and is more worthy of being borrowed on than Cayman housing. We need to get past this and we need to push on. On the 30th of April, that's just next month, I want you to think very seriously about the road ahead. To understand that the reality of electing your next MP is not just limited to what you think of him in the constituency, although that is very, very important. Your MP needs to be able to interact with you. You need to have access to him. He needs to understand that you need access to him, and he needs to make himself available for that access. And if and when you elect me, I will be accessible. Other than that, however, your MP is going to be in Parliament. He is going to represent you on the national stage. You have to decide who you want that MP to be. I'm going to suggest this to you. You shouldn't just put that in the hands of some party leader. I think that where you have a choice, particularly here in Red Bay, where you have the choice of a good, competent, capable individual who will work for you in Parliament, you need to vote for that person. You need to vote for number 1, Phillip Ebanks, on the 30th of April. I thank you all very much. I appreciate your time, and God bless you. I hope that you'll get some my mama's cassava cake is there somewhere, all right? And the corned beef sandwiches, they're all there. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Invite them over.
Okay, folks, thank you so much for coming out. Give it up for Phil one more time. Have you ever heard a politician, have you ever heard a person or any of the candidates with that type of energy, with that type of delivery? You have not. You swear that this guy is seasoned already. He is ready, 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 ready.
God bless Red Bay. God bless Red Bay. God bless Selkirk. Thank you all very much. Come and join us for some of those corned beef sandwiches, please.
Thank you.